What is an infantryman doing talking about cognitive warfare and the substrate?
We are not fighting the correct war as a nation.
The algorithm doesn't reward depth, accuracy, or nuance. It rewards outrage, speed, and virality.
If you look at Op Sindoor,
Yeah.
in spite of, we shouting from the roof,
Right.
hey, we have achieved kinetic supremacy by targeting and hitting the Pakistani airfields. We have shown them pictures all over the world.
Yes.
Why? The world seemingly has not fully bought into our narrative.
Right.
That is because we ignored the social and the cognitive spheres.
Right. This is colonialism of a new kind.
When you do a Google search, the algo is going to decide what you see, the first
Right.
10 or the first 20. So that also extends into the kinetic military space. If you import a platform from, XYZ country,
Yeah.
Does that platform have sensors or radar? Is it showing you the real picture? Are you fully sure? Or you are just operating that, platform? You have not owned it. It can also be controlled by the substrate.
How is it different from the digital sovereignty that you've been talking about? You've been a passionate advocate of.
This theory fully coming out, many other students and academicians and practitioners will have a key to understand, okay, we can't look at parts of the elephant. We have to see the whole elephant. This is a key which might unlock the whole elephant.
We have no social media tools, no indigenous social media tools. Everything that we use today is foreign in origin and could be governed by algorithms.
I really do thank President Trump for, giving us that small little shock. But even today, people are trying to say it is President Trump. No, it is a US establishment.
What else do you see around you that inspires hope? And where do you see the potential for us in the future?
Heart of the government seems to be in the right place, and they've taken the correct, voices. But we can't just be on talk. We need to walk that talk.
Right.
We can't put this off. We have to take the hard decision.
Hello and welcome to the Sandeep Unnithan Show, your weekly dose of defense, geopolitics, and much, much more. Today, I'm joined in our studios. I'm privileged to be joined by Lieutenant Col Pavithran Rajan. Col Rajan is a soldier, an academic, and an aspiring entrepreneur. He's also a man who taught me to fire an INSAS rifle many, many years ago, but more on that later. Col Pavithran, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Sandy. It's always a privilege to be on your show.
Thank you. I want to ask you first, without much ado, what is this paper that you've come out with, Rethinking Power in the Digital Age? What is an infantryman doing talking about cognitive warfare and the substrate? What are these concepts? Tell us what we're talking about here.
Okay, my infantry days are long over. And even at that time, when we were fighting insurgency in the Northeast as well as Kashmir,
Right.
I always knew that we are not doing the correct fight. The fight was always among the people and in their minds.
Right.
We were just doing the mere kinetic action.
Right.
So when I transitioned finally to INCORE and then to policy and then to academia and to the think tank circuit, aim was always that we, I knew instinctively that we are not fighting the correct war as a nation.
Right.
And we seem to be in a bubble, unreal bubble,
Yeah.
where things were very far removed from reality. A lot of people in our national security establishment was talking about a global village.
Right.
They were saying the earth is flat. And I was trying to point out to them, no, we have a passport. The earth is not flat. It is not a global village.
It's not.
I don't think so. If it was a global village, my passport would have been Schengen. I would have been able to travel anywhere. Trump would have kicked me out, or my people, today.
It's such a lovely book, when it came out 20 years back, The World is Flat. Tom Friedman's book, Brief History of the 21st Century. We all thought the world was going to be flat and it was going to be nice and everyone would be singing Kumbaya and, all of that. The world isn't flat.
It definitely is not. It's very apparent today. Or maybe Friedman was prescient. It might become flat once it becomes a one world government.
Right.
Otherwise, how will it become flat? And at the end of history also, how can it be end of history unless there is a very dominant power where you can never escape?
That's another big book that you're talking about. Another of my favorite books, The End of History and the Last Man by Francis Fukuyama, written in the aftermath of the Cold War. Where
Absolutely, Sari. In hindsight, when you look at it, 2 decades into those books,
Right.
don't you think that was part of a narrative building where we have been taken for a ride?
We? You mean Indians or the world or anyone in particular?
India, especially, I believe, because Europe, when you think about it, they have been beneficiaries of this order,
Right.
and they've enjoyed a much higher, quality of life. They were under the overarching protection of the US.
Right.
We were not. So why did we join in this particular bandwagon? Other than that outsourced software industry, which had very small, little heft even today. Because at that time, I remember people saying, "Oh, we have arrived," and today, the Chinese ICT industry is 2 trillion.
Right.
We are somewhere around 200 plus billion.
Yeah.
So, was that a correct strategy? And why were people like us not heeded to when we are consistently saying that this is a wrong strategy? I do, in fact, thank President Trump for showing us the reality.
President Trump has given us all the red pill.
Absolutely, without doubt.
So that's interesting. Now, we have 3 goalposts. We're looking at 3 goalposts in the last few decades. The first one is, of course, the end of history. The time that we began our economic liberalization, we opened up to the world. 2005, which was when Tom Friedman wrote that book, The World is Flat, where you're looking at Western, you can call it hegemony, going across the world. And it was the Western dictated order where they were controlling all the levers of power. And today, 2025, you're looking at a new power shift where China is taking the lead, which is challenging the dominance of the United States. And the US is fighting back. That's typically the 3 big milestones that we've seen in the last couple of decades.
So, for a civilizational nation, we are one of the, 2 existing civilizational nations,
Yeah.
other being China, with so much of history, and coming out of a colonial, rule. I sometimes feel that our intellectual class has been particularly naive.
Right.
Did they really think the Homo sapien has evolved and become Homo superior, that power struggles and actions between, geopolitics between nations will be over? Even those books signified the triumph of the US, undeclared empire success against the Soviet
US-led
Union.
order. Right.
Yes. So why did we just buy into that?
We didn't have a narrative of our own. That's what you're saying.
Without doubt, we never had a narrative. At least in the modern republic, we have not had a narrative of our own. In spite of the fact that we are proud, on our civilizational history is of Kautilya and the Arthashastra, which
Right.
today, when I look at it, it's even superior to Clausewitz. Okay, it's not a Clausewitzian world. If you look at the digital of surveillance, and setting the order in place, it's much more Caudillian than Clausewitzian.
Right.
So, for a civilization with that sort of, inheritance, we have been especially naive, without doubt.
Right.
So, this paper and those presentations, which, you did see it when I tried to do that last week with the army, this is an attempt at reclaiming a theory.
Right.
We are the, because no Indian has, or in fact, no non-white has created a theory of warfare, international relations, or statecraft.
Right.
Attempted to create such a theory in the modern era. So this is an attempt. I would only say it's an attempt because it is yet to get published. We have just taken out 2 presentations and 1 paper.
I'm reading your paper, in fact, Rethinking Power in the Digital Age. And I want to ask you about this concept that you've brought out in this paper, which is the substrate. What exactly do you mean by the substrate? Is it the techno-economic base on which all our current ICT innovations are posited on? How do you define it?
So let's be very factually correct. It's a co-theory by General Huda, a much more eminent person than I am. Okay, it's a co-theory by him and me. And we here attempt to say that modernity, when you look at what is this modern world, which is post-industrial, it's got to do with a information and communication technology revolution, which is at this point over the last 3 decades has reached the age of algorithms, where increasingly human decision making in all spheres of life, including political, economic, and the military, are to a large extent influenced by machine thinking.
Right.
This is a profound change in human history. And when you think from that point of view, history has changed. Okay, this is unprecedented in the entire history of mankind.
Right.
Okay,
Where algorithms are determining.
algorithms are now going to dictate all aspects of human civilization,
Right.
all your endeavors, including warfare, politics, economics.
Right.
Okay, in such a this is an attempt to explain the reality of the world, because old classical theories like realism, constructivism, liberalism, etc., do not capture this in full. It does not capture the reality of the world today.
Right. And I must, for the benefit of our viewers, tell you this, that when I read this paper, and of course I saw Col Pavithran's presentation, it was for me a bit like The Matrix, when Neo is offered those two pills, the blue pill where he goes back to his reality, his digital, the Maya sphere that he's trapped in, or he pops the red pill and he becomes aware of the reality of the world. So this is a bit like that. This is a red pill theory that you've given us, that it's not what we think the world is not what we think it is. It is something else. There is something else that is running it. And this is the the fundamental underlying principle of everything that we see around us, these algorithms. And in fact, all of the conflict that we were talking of just before the show can be traced down to the battle for the substrate. But do go on about this.
Okay, so you're correct in many ways. It's an attempt to decipher the world as it is. Since it's just one paper, a small little paper, not the full theory, for many people who read it, a lot of concepts which are mentioned in it might look very familiar. Oh, we are aware of this. But what we have done is we have given you certain terms like the substrate.
Right.
Otherwise, it was isolated, hardware, software, algorithms, all this. The substrate
Right.
gives you a unified this to see what is the contest all about.
Right.
Why are we seeing the rift in international relations as we speak? This is I would call it a key from which you might be able to decipher.
Right.
And it is also an attempt. This also, this paper should not be fully seen in isolation.
Right.
It should be seen with that, the theory of the socio-technical cognitive balance space.
Right.
Wherein, if you look at Op Sindoor,
Yeah.
in spite of, we shouting from the roof,
Right.
hey, we have achieved kinetic supremacy by targeting and hitting the Pakistani airfields. We have shown them pictures all over the world.
Yes.
Why the world seemingly has not fully bought into our narrative.
Right.
That is because we ignored the social and the cognitive spheres.
Right.
Those to a large extent are controlled by the US and China.
Right.
We do not wield universal control over it. We have a very limited control of it within our nation. That might be the actual reason why Pakistani narrative seems to have more salience. So these are attempts to make the military and the nation aware that to be relevant, to fight, and to triumph in this era, you need to see the existing realities as it is,
Right.
and not as what we want it to be.
What you just said set me thinking, because just a couple of days back, one of our most respected media figures spoke out in Mumbai at the FICCI Frames, where he said that in terms of ad revenues, it's the digital platforms of the West that are actually the real Indian media companies. 70% of total media revenue is earned by them, sitting on the west coast of the United States, your Meta and your Alphabet and the X. And he says that they're eating the breakfast, lunch and dinners of the media companies, leaving only crumbs for publishers and broadcasters. Digital advertising is now 55% of total ad revenue, far surpassing TV and print. And here's what you said just makes sense, because he said the same thing. And their master is the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't reward depth, accuracy or nuance. It rewards outrage, speed and virality. This is something that we have been personally talking about. I mean, I remember that one talk that I gave at the staff college last year. They said the same thing. Today, the biggest Indian media companies are not Indian in the sense that they are American-owned big tech companies that are earning all the revenue, and therefore they're setting the narratives. So that there is a problem there if you look at it.
You are correct. But when you were saying this, what it struck me was, don't you think this colonialism reinvented? This was exactly the, when the British came and
Yes.
they, imposed a new order of, making fabrics, textile
Right.
industry
Right.
with steam-powered, machines. They wiped out our entire, there was a transition. They wiped
The
out our entire
handicrafts.
industry. Yeah.
Yes.
That is one of the start of the, taking out of the wealth of India. Okay.
Right.
A lot of our people went out of.
But can't you argue that that's a far more efficient way of production? I mean, that industrial revolution is what was pioneered in the West, and they stole a march over the rest of the world.
Yes, but then I also look at other nations who are not part of the industrial revolution. Look at how Japan rapidly transited.
Right.
Okay.
Meiji era Japan,
Yeah.
late 19th century.
Yeah. Now you look at other countries in comparison when there are so many other countries. If you look
Yes.
at South Korea, after this particular era is the post Second World War, the American-led order.
Right.
So when you compare yourself with many other East Asian, China, etc., have we done that well? And should we say that was a more efficient production method, so we surrender?
Right.
Or do we compete?
Right.
Are we trying to justify that, since they were superior, we surrender? Is that a way to look at it? Or as a independent democratic republic,
Right.
we look to compete and we try to say, okay, they have done this, brilliant. How do we compete with them and stay relevant for our people? So I ask you this fundamental question. So if you surrender this entire mind space to Western big tech, what sort of democracy are we? How can a political process function?
Right.
Those foundational questions have not been asked. And I find it very troubling.
So you're saying that this is colonialism of a new kind, what we are witnessing right now. And that is what the battle for the substrate is all about. It's about creating dominating a new battlefield that's
without doubt. So when you think about it in this way, last 20 years, we said we are a software IT superpower.
Yes.
Who gave us this term, IT superpower? There were people who said it is coolidom.
Right.
But why did that IT superpower become the dominant, narrative?
Narrative warfare. The world is flat narrative.
It might not purely be narrative. It's a multi-dimensional operation. Okay. So in one of the slides that I've also talked about the 6 columnists. Because initially I was thinking, why are other people not seeing what I'm seeing? Because I knew that patriotism is not my monopoly.
Right.
Many other, army officers equally maybe more patriotic, But
Right.
Why were they not able to see that? Then I realized that the fundamental human nature is interest.
Right.
And when that self-interest takes over, whether be it in the economic, whether be it in any other sphere, he might become blind to the larger interests.
Right.
So the terminology, 6 columnists. So these are foundational terminologies which we are creating to explain this phenomenon.
Right. But, coming to what we're seeing around us in 2025, we're witnessing a battle of a kind that we've not seen before, where the US hegemony is being threatened by China. And there's a very interesting battle over resources, particularly rare earths, which are used to manufacture semiconductors, F-35s, the works. The world of big tech today depends on semiconductors, and China has weaponized that. What's the battle over? Is it just about rare earths, or is it something more deeper? It's about controlling the levers of power, which are these big, the substrate that you mentioned.
So when you look at this particular phenomena, it's very clear that the first shots were fired by the existing hegemon, the US.
In 2021, by the Biden administration.
Yes, they tried to restrict technology to China. They put restrictions on
the chips,
etc.
Right.
So today morning, I saw a tweet by a French gentleman who said the Chinese squeeze was not applied in 2021. They waited because they saw that if we apply the rare earth skews at this point,
right,
the US can apply a helium skews on us. So in the substrate where I've tried to explain, there are multiple substrates. So in the terrestrial substrates, it's going to be, what advantage do we have in manufacturing or technology-wise?
Right.
These are levers of power, because in a nuclear environment, you can't openly fight. Okay, that kinetic open fight is, no one is going to win that battle.
Right.
So the fight is going to be in this phase, and one has to realize the kinetic military power can only be exercised with control over the substrate.
Right.
So again, the battle has gone to the substrate, because kinetic action is dependent on control of the substrate.
Right. So define for us in one line what a substrate really is.
One line might be difficult, Sandy, but I'll try and explain. You look at modernity, the GPS.
Yes.
Now, when you go from place A to place B, you are dependent on the satellites who give GPS position.
Yes.
You, to a large extent, in all spheres, are dependent on the internet. Okay,
Right.
for banking, your daily life, everything.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
all technologies in your house is infused with chips, operating systems, etc.
Right.
Logical. When you do the YouTube, which you open up to see a YouTube, it's algo which pushes
Yes.
those things up to you.
Right.
When you do a Google search, is what you want, is it going to pop up, or is
Yeah.
what the algo going to decide what you see, the first
Right.
10 or the first 20? If you go to Perplexity, what gives you, information? It's all, curated by them.
Right.
So is it really the reality which you would like to see, or what the algo wants you to see? So that also extends into the kinetic military space. If you import a platform from, XYZ country, does that platform have sensors or radar? Is it showing you the real picture? Are you fully sure? Or you are just operating that, platform? You have not owned it. It can also be controlled by the substrate, the underlying technologies inside it.
Right.
So the substrate, maybe in the simplest form, is what makes modern life. It's a fused ICT domain,
Right.
which is penetrating. I wouldn't say it's cyberspace,
Right.
but it penetrates into everything in your life, including when we sit in the studio. Look at how many technologies are dependent on even this mic.
Right.
Okay, so does it have a chip? I don't know. Can it take my voice and make the audience listen to something else? I
Right.
don't know.
Right.
When you put it on YouTube, what we say and what they hear, can the AI in real time alter it and make them hear what the AI wants to, convey? I don't know. So I hope the substrate makes sense.
But how is it different from the digital sovereignty that you've been talking of? You've been a passionate advocate of digital sovereignty and data protection for the last 10 years. You've been writing about it. How different is what you're talking about now from what we've been hearing from you, your papers over the last 10 years?
Okay, so those are concepts for that time, because when people were sitting in the national security establishment were talking about a global village,
Yes.
now how do you talk back to them? So I had to go back to fundamentals, saying, hey, we are a constitutional republic, you are a government employee, and that constitution does not recognize a global village.
Right.
So how are you as a government servant talking about an imaginary global village when you are a sovereign constitutional republic, right? So for that time, I was one of the first to use that word, because maybe from a colonial point, I immediately could recognize that, this is
Right.
digital colonialism, because the levers of power are being controlled somewhere else.
Right.
So this is not a word, it's a holistic theory. It's a start of a theory.
Right.
We are preparing the ground for, making people understand. It's not going to be easy, this,
Right.
because me and General Huda, we are not classical academicians, we are practitioner theorists.
Right. Right.
We both understand, when we talk, this, what the theory says or the existing theory literature says does not make sense. So can we make a better theory which fits in? So this is an attempt and a key to unlock so many other, phenomena which we see.
Right.
And we hope that with this theory fully coming out, many other students and academicians and practitioners will have a key to understand, we can't look at parts of the elephant.
Right.
We have to see the whole elephant. This is a key which might unlock the whole elephant.
So what is the whole elephant? We've been feeling parts of it. Global village was one part of it. right? This is clearly not a global village. According to you, we don't live in a global village. We live in a real world where there are nations, real nations, with real interests of control. And control has always been one of the features of all empires.
And of human nature. We are a competitive ape.
Yes.
I have been trying to tell, Homo sapiens have not evolved beyond Homo sapiens.
Right.
So our nature is not fundamentally changed.
No.
Our nature, if you look at our entire history, the reality is, even today, look at all parts of the globe. Look at the sort of battles which are being done.
Why only battles? I mean, I think even in sports, we spend trillions of dollars on sports, which is all about competition. One person
But that is a
beating the
civilized
opponent.
That is a civilized. To be very honest, I agree with you. These are all communication in one way.
Right.
You can communicate through poetry. You can communicate through a machine gun.
Right.
Okay, it's still a communication. One is a hard power communication. The other
Yes.
is a soft power communication.
Right.
It's all part of the same continuum.
Right.
Okay, but why do Indians ignore the hard part of the communication possibilities and run policy frameworks on the soft part?
Which is constructs like the global village, like you said. Which
Yes,
is
so we can't be
contrary.
we can't be poetic. So the poetry is part of life, but people who run a nation might like poetry, but they can't practice statecraft based on poetry.
right. And there is a chapter in your paper which talks about the sovereignty trap, where you say that, of course, understanding the substrate is crucial for developing nations like ours. But the problem is that when you come to the digital technology sphere, that it has a winner takes all dynamic. So the traditional catch-up model is not possible here. And we've been witnessing this debate of late, the fact that we have no social media tools, no indigenous social media tools. Everything that we use today is foreign in origin and could be governed by algorithms set by someone else. So how does India cope with this substrate? What should we do right now in 2025 that we aren't already doing?
Okay, I will try and explain this to you by using two examples. Look at two states, Estonia and Singapore.
Right.
They have done wonderfully for themselves. Okay,
Very small nation states.
Small nation states. I constantly keep hearing about our, people from so-and-so ministry has gone to Estonia to study there. These are, when I look at it, they have no understanding of geopolitics and of India's size and latent power potential.
Right.
Are we a Estonia? So, an Estonia rising per capita income-wise does not upset the global power order.
Right.
But an India with 1.4 plus billion people rising with per capita income will under one political system will immediately upset the global order. And unlike China, which is hemmed in with the first island chain, second island chain, etc., we are the fulcrum of the globe dominating the IOR, the most crucial, ocean of the world.
Economic waterways of the world.
Yes. Can such a nation be allowed to rise by incumbent hegemons or aspiring hegemons in one piece? That's a central challenge. So what will work for others, will it work for us? Why have we not thought from that particular point of view? Have we just absorbed narratives without translating to our realities? I personally feel we have, and it's a central failure of our times. I really do thank President Trump for, giving us that small little shock. But even today, people are trying to say it is President Trump. No, it is a US establishment. President Trump is a representative of the US establishment. He might be having a fight with the Democratic establishment and the deep state. But make no mistake, Trump is for America. We have to stand up for ourselves.
Right. But do make sense of the government's present moves. I mean, there has been a concerted drive in the last couple of months for getting an indigenous semiconductor. A policy has been rolled out. You have, factories that are going to be making indigenous chips very soon. This is something we should have done a long time back. So we are in the catch-up game right now. What else do you see around you that, inspires hope? And where do you see the potential for us in the future? What next? What must we do now to catch up in this race, to ensure that, there is no digital colonization, as you put it?
So 2014, when the present government took on power, it's a continuous, the Modi government is a continuous this of 3, administrations which have happened. They declared Digital India, and their initial steps, because I was one of the people in the system, I told you this before. General Huda was in Northern Command,
Yes.
trying to put a indigenous OS into place in the Northern Command,
Right.
which was a start.
Right.
Okay.
Bharat OS.
No, it was not Bharat OS. It is BOSS.
BOSS,
It was a
yeah,
CIRAC
yeah.
system which they were
Yes.
trying to, put in place.
Right.
It was very clear to me that the establishment was not backing that up.
Right.
In fact, in 2014, the first government order was to go towards a FOSS,
Right.
which was held in abeyance.
Hmm.
They passed the order, but in this entire place, the thing was all orders need not be respected, which was shocking in any case.
Right.
But that attempt was, let me put it, I don't want to use that harsh term, sabotage, but in many ways was not supported by the establishment.
Right.
Okay. From that point, we initially said Make in India. Then we said Atmanirbhar.
Right.
Now, in spite of saying all that, our entire policy for Atmanirbhar has not been holistic, in my humble opinion.
Right.
Because if you want to create a innovation ecosystem, this has been solved globally.
Right.
Okay, many people have created innovation ecosystems, and there are multiple steps.
Hmm.
If you for innovation ecosystems, you need to back up an entrepreneur.
Right.
You need to have a global venture, government venture capital fund, which will act as a catalyst for other venture capital money to come in. You need academic support. You need government support, procurement support, etc., etc. So, I even wrote that monograph to bring that out, where I've clearly, I was told to research and write about it. I've
Yes.
written about it. We have not taken the entire, gone whole hog supporting. So those policy, spaces are still missing.
Right.
The heart of the government seems to be in the right place, and they've taken the correct, voices. But we can't just be on talk. We need to walk that talk.
Right.
We can't put this off. We have to take the hard decision.
What are the hard decisions that we must take?
Okay, once you realize, what was the narrative till date? US, our strategic partner.
Yes.
Okay. Russia is a traditional ally.
Yes.
Pakistan, because they are constantly, been, that's our enemy. China, till Galwan happened, we were trying to, can we reconcile? Have we just analyzed the map, sat over it, and understood that if we have to rise, there is no other country which is going to come to our support? Then, how did you can see a masterclass in China, how they rose?
Yes.
They engaged with the world.
And the United States.
Yes, they never compromised with their interests.
Right.
In spite of kicking out the social media of the US, didn't they rise as an industrial power?
Yes.
Because they never, compromised on their core national security interests. Here, we have not even been able to articulate what is our core national security interests.
We have defined it, but you're saying we haven't articulated.
I don't think we have defined it. If we had defined it over a proper study, we would not have been where we are today. We would not have talked about a global village. Everything starts off with a narrative. We are a multi-linguistic nation. Multi-ethnic, linguistic, very vast.
Yes.
And we speak in an English language. So when you say a global village, just imagine how all the states, you can't do a policy if you don't clearly articulate it. And if you do not have the backing of multiple arms of the state, all pushing for that.
Yes.
This is a small attempt, which has happened at the correct time, to articulate what does it take to rise, what are the actual power structures.
Right.
And if you have to rise, then, it's a step for, once they understand that this is a power struggle, I'm sure that other people will be able to wargame how they need to rise.
Right.
So it's a step in that direction.
So you're saying that the ultimate battle, your paper actually, points us to that direction. The ultimate battle is going to be for the control of the substrate, which is what China and the United States are engaged in currently.
Any nation who controls a substrate will be able to algorithmically control the rest of the globe. Okay? The battle is purely on that. And substrate control compared to traditional imperial domains finally helps in targeting the cognitive space of a nation and of individuals, because you're individually targeted. Once that target is achieved, it's going to be permanent peace. That will be very difficult to get over, because you don't even realize there is an imperial dominion on you. You will be in a paradise of artificial paradise, because cognitively your brain thinks that you are the love.
In a matrix kind of world.
Absolutely.
In a make-believe world.
Now you have realized what it is all about. What is the substrate?
A global village, a flat earth,
everything
a world where the history has ended.
Even the African guy in Sub-Sahara, if he's plugged to the substrate,
yes,
will imagine that he is equal to a white man who's enjoying everything, because that's what his senses will tell him.
So it's a sphere of complete dominion of one ideology, of one nation, which controls everything, and everyone else is plugged into that.
You have said it, because you started seeing it. Isn't that what people, WF, etc., has been continuously talking about? The Great Reset, the Great this, one world government. It's a substrate. Domination of the substrate.
Right. Domination of the substrate, which sovereign nations like India must oppose. And, thank you very much, Col Pavithran, for that red pill moment. And I can only wish this paper a lot of success, a lot of reach, possibly a book even at some point.
We are trying. We already created. We are talks with some publishers.
A book based on this.
Yes, 2 books in fact. One is a pure theory and the other is a non-fiction.
Right. Please count me in for both of those books. I'm going to pre-order them right now, because
let's see such a ambitious thing will it, because they control the substrate. The publishing substrate is owned not by Indians.
That's a story for another day. But I wish you all the very best, Col Pavithran. This is a complete wake-up call here for us, especially for all of you who are watching out there. Col Pavithran is the habit of dishing out red pills, and this is his new red pill, the substrate. The battles of the future will be fought for this substrate, and nations who don't heed his wake-up call will pay the price of their sovereignty. A red pill moment indeed, Col Rajan. You've woken me up, as always, from that firing range on the 57 Mountain Div shooting range with the INSAS and the LMG, and today this bold new theory of the substrate and how our digital sovereignty could be compromised. But thank you very much for joining us, for your time and your thoughts.